Hey guys, it's your favorite Chicago personal injury lawyer, Scott DeSalvo here, and I decided to make a video for you on a topic that is very, very common. And so I get this question all the time in my law practice: do I have a good personal injury case? A lot of times people call me, whether it's a car crash case, truck accident, work injury. Most people want to know, hey, let me tell you some facts, and do you think we are going to win, right? And that's a reasonable question. A lot of times people don't want to file a workers' comp claim against their employer or go through the stress of a lawsuit unless they think they have a reasonable chance to win. So I decided, I've done some other of my YouTube videos on this topic, but I decided to do another one because I think it's an important topic. And what most lawyers will say when you ask them this question is they'll analyze it and they'll say, well, is there good liability? Are there good damages? And that boils down to, is the accident or injury somebody else's fault, not your fault? And are the damages good? In other words, big injuries, permanent injuries, lots of time lost from work, lots of medical bills, right? Now that's good advice, but the problem with that advice is it's really kind of too general. I mean, of course, everyone knows if you sue, it's got to be the other guy's fault, and the bigger the injuries, the bigger the case, right? And the more a lawyer's going to like it. So I've had a recent case that I think is a perfect test case to talk about to sort of explain how this actually applies. You know, put the rubber to the road and really explain some of the details about how the injury or medical of a case really affects whether it's a good case or not, right? So I represented a lady who had two serious injuries 1 year apart, right? And I represented her on the second injury. So she had a very serious motorcycle accident and was treating for that. And then a year after that, she had a car crash, right? So that already raises some red flags, right? But she treated with the exact same doctors, and the same doctors gave her the exact same treatment before her second crash and after, right? So that's a little bit of a concern. It gets worse, though, because she was on the same levels of medicine, right? The same types of medicine. The medical records showed that her complaints to the doctors were the same parts of the body. And then she also had the same reported complaint levels. So some of you may know that doctors record pain levels in medical records on the 1 to 10 scale, where 0 is no pain and 10 is unbearable pain. The problem is there was very little difference between her pain before our crash and after our crash, right? So to pile it on, her x-rays and MRIs before our automobile collision case and after our car crash, her MRIs and x-rays, the findings were identical. So the MRIs and x-rays did not show any new injuries. And the frequency of her doctor visits were absolutely the same. So she received injections and therapy, but it was the exact same therapy, the same injections to the same parts of the body, but at the same frequency, right? And not only were she getting the same kind of medicine, but she was being given the same frequency of medicine, right? So her prescription medication didn't really change much either, right? The only basis that we could use to prove that there was an injury and that this injury affected her life was the fact that she had subjective complaints. So subjective complaints means you go in and you say, doctor, my neck hurts, or doctor, my arm hurts, or my shoulder hurts, right? But remember what we were talking about before. The medical records show that these parts of her body hurt the same before our crash and after our crash. So how in the world can we use the medical records or the doctor's testimony to establish an injury? Well, in this case, we really couldn't, right? I figured I would tell you a little bit about some other problems with cases that I see all the time that didn't really apply to the case that I recently resolved for this lady. So some of them are waiting to see a doctor, the doctor saying bad things about you or your injuries in the medical records. Believe it or not, I just had to drop a case where this was an issue. Then with medical treatment gaps. So let's say you go to the doctor and then you stop going for 6 months and then you decide you want to go again. Jurors are very suspicious of that. Finally, medical records that don't match, right? So if you complain of your right shoulder and neck in the ambulance and in the emergency room, and then 6 months into your medical care, you all of a sudden start complaining about a knee injury. This actually happens all the time. It's not uncommon for people to have lower level problems and the doctors address the problems worst first, right? And so finally their neck and their shoulder starts feeling better, but then they're like, okay, now that my neck and shoulder are feeling better, I've been having this nagging pain in my knee, right? Well, insurance companies and defense attorneys love that because it makes it look like you're making things up, right? Makes it look like you're trying to prolong the case and get something for nothing. So these are some other examples of things that you want, right? So the name of the game here is if there are objective injuries, the doctors support you, the medical records are consistent, it makes it easier for us to prove the case is legit, and there's less fodder, less ammunition for the insurance company to attack your case, right? So keep in mind that there are some good cases when an attorney signs them up or gets the case in his office or her office. Some cases which appear to be good end up being really bad once we look at the medical records and obtain other evidence. And the flip side of that is that some cases that we sign up that appear to be rough initially end up being very good injury cases. So any lawyer who tells you, you get a free consultation from an attorney and they tell you they think your case is fantastic, that is a pure estimate. And they would be better off being honest with you about the fact that, really, until you know all the details of the case, it's impossible for you to, as an attorney, really tell somebody whether, what their chances are at trial. So the thing that you may have noticed from some of my other YouTube videos is you have to remember that the way we handle these cases and evaluate them is that you have to remember that if the case can't be resolved, it's going to be evaluated by a jury, right? And that's 12 strangers, not your friends, not people who like you, 12 strangers who are a little bit suspicious about injury cases these days. So if there are problems with the case, we really have to pay attention to them and see what we can do to mitigate or, lessen the impact on your case, right? The other thing is insurance companies only settle cases based on fear. So that's another reason why we want to build as strong a case as possible and mitigate any weaknesses in the case, because if the insurance company is not afraid of what those 12 strangers will do at trial, they're not likely to want to resolve your case, right? If they think that they can hire bogus doctors to say you weren't really hurt or you weren't really hurt that bad, which, by the way, happens all the time these days. Insurance companies go out and hire the same doctors over and over, and they write these reports saying the injured person is exaggerating, right? And they do that specifically so that the doctor can come to court and seem impressive during trial and try and, hurt the case, basically. Finally, the last thing I'll say is that, compromise is important. If you have a case where, it's a case that is challenging and there is an offer on the case, you have to take it. So the reason I bring this point up is, in my case initially when I signed it, the lady told me that she had had a ton of medical treatment. It was a really good case. Well, literally about 4,000 pages of medical records later, we just found a minefield of problems in the case. Now, we were able to resolve this client's case for quite a bit of money, but it was only because we had the opportunity to obtain all the records, analyze them, and put together a very strong case, the strongest case we possibly could, even though it was a rough case, right? So I think a lot of lawyers make a mistake in their practices by only wanting to sign up the cases that look strong right out of the gate, because sometimes, like I said before, a good case goes bad. Sometimes a rough case actually turns out really great. So I was really happy that we were able to take care of this lady and get her a good outcome in her case. In a future video, we'll talk about the other end of whether a Chicago personal injury case is good, and that other end is liability. In other words, what did they do and what did you do, if anything, to cause the injury? So that'll be a separate video. I think I've probably been talking at you long enough. I hope the video helps you. Thank you for watching, and if I can be of assistance, please feel free to give me a call. Thanks for watching again, and have a great day. If you have any questions, I offer a free no-obligation consultation, so call me at 888-HURT-318. The call and the consultation are free and available 24 hours a day. Or if you aren't ready to speak with a lawyer, click the image of the DVD and the book on the screen, and you can get a free copy of my injury DVD and book, which explains how the injury claims process works and answers the most common questions injured people have. Same deal, 100% free and no obligation. I look forward to hearing from you. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button, or if you'd like to see more of my videos, click subscribe. Thanks again.
If you've been hurt, insurance treating you mean, call 888-HURT-318.